It'd be hard to find anyone who's analyzed the canonicity of LEGO Batman more than me, and I don't say that to brag. While my friends and peers are off graduating college and getting full-time jobs, I'm having to search through every nook and cranny of LEGO DC supervillains to find a single mention of LEGO Killer Moth. We've looked into the timeline of the games themselves, tried to line it up with the movies, and even discovered the fate of previously unseen characters. But there's one topic I've always wanted to cover, and that's the relationship between LEGO Batman and the DCAU. The DCAU's inspiration can be seen in many different facets of the game. There's the soundtrack, the characters, and even the progression of the games themselves, but that's not what I'm here to focus on today. Yes, the games and the animated universe go side by side one another, that much is obvious. But is there a way we can fit the shows and the games' timelines together without their individual canons conflicting? Is there a case to be made for LEGO Batman being canon inside the great DCAU? Well, let's lay the groundwork. I've already done a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to the timeline of the games themselves, and I'll have that video in the top right of the screen right now, but we first need to make some amends to that theory before moving on. The order of the games as I presented them were LEGO Batman 1, 2, Dimensions, and 3. But in actuality, it makes more sense for Dimensions and 3 to switch positions, as Batman already knew who Brainiac was in LEGO Dimensions, so we had to at some point have encountered him before.
Brainiac 2? This place has been totally overrun.
This doesn't mess with the immediate timeline of the games, as Dimensions is largely excluded from today's topic, but I feel like it's still important to mention. This is also why we'll be treating the games not just as a collective universe, but as individual entities. Just because LEGO Batman 3 might contradict some events from Justice League Unlimited doesn't mean it decanonizes LEGO Batman 1 and 2. If we went with that logic, then the new Batman Adventure comics would decanonize almost everything from the original BTAS show. So in order for a game or show to be considered canon, it just needs to not contradict events from the shows. We'll go over tons of supplementary evidence in favor of these universes colliding, but we're really looking for things that prove the opposite, which is why we're starting in the back of our games with LEGO Batman 3. It doesn't take long for this game to break any connection it may have had to the DCAU. The main antagonist of LEGO Batman 3 is Brainiac, who also ended up being one of the main antagonists of the shows, second only to Darkseid. At face value, this almost seems good, but we quickly see that the game treats LEGO Batman 3 as Brainiac's first trip to Earth ever.
Greetings! I am Brainiac, an android, and collector of knowledge and civilizations.
None of the characters know him nor what his deal is, and ends up being at odds with Lex, who upon his first visit to Earth in Superman the Animated Series was his main connection, and even his entire character's motivation in JLU. It wouldn't make any sense for the League to just forget Brainiac by the events of the game or the show, depending on which comes first. This is quite a shame because outside of that minor inconvenience, there is a lot of homage paid to Justice League Unlimited. The villain team-up of Lex, Grundy, and Cheetah is a staple in the shows, and it's even seen present here. The huge roster expansion also lines up with the even more gigantic roster the Justice League takes on in the first season of JLU. Outside of the missing story presence of Shazam, this functions as a wonderful abridged version of what could have been a story arc in Justice League Unlimited. Besides probably Season 3, I still love you. Before moving on to the most glaring continuity break in LEGO Batman, one that unfortunately knocks 2 full games off the timeline, there's something more important we need to talk about. Just over a year ago, all 3 of my YouTube channels were hacked, morphing into some weird Elon Musk Tesla fan page. These were and still are my main source of income, so I was rightfully freaking out, trying to restore them before it was too late. YouTube support was of course no help, and it took them over a day to get me my channels back. By that point though, the damage was done. I had lost thousands of subscribers, which is why I started taking my online security so much more seriously. And it's all made easier with the sponsor of today's video, Aura. Aura is an online security program and VPN all rolled into one, with extra emphasis on the security. More likely than not, your personal information is out there on the internet floating around thanks to data brokers selling it, even if you've been extra careful about your online footprint. Hell, I plugged my email into Aura and they immediately notified me that the password I was using had been compromised, saving my channel from another potential hack. I signed up for a Kohl's credit card just last week, and within the hour they had notified me that my information was used to get said card. They're so efficient and on the dot, it scares me to think what could happen if I didn't have Aura watching my back. From a password manager to fraud protection, from a VPN to an antivirus software, Aura does so much and more. If you value your online privacy and safety like me, you can head on over to aura.com/BD1P for a 2-week free trial, no charge off the bat. Yeah, a 2-week free trial. I have a feeling that once you sign up and see just how vulnerable you really are, it'll be hard to go 2 weeks without it. Again, that's aura.com/BD1P for a 2-week free trial. Protect yourself before you're given a reason to. There's still one major LEGO Batman 3 contradiction we have to acknowledge before moving on. One that, unfortunately, is going to knock LEGO Batman 2 off the table as well. When Flash is vacuuming his house in the beginning of LEGO Batman 3, we see blonde eyebrows. Blonde hair is the color most associated with Barry Allen in the DC animated content, with every single incarnation of the character rocking with the purple shampoo, even in the comics. This is a major issue, as Barry Allen never directly appears inside of any DCAU content, and I mean ever.
I trust you guys, but I'm not sure I'm ready to...
Wally West, Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne.
Not any movies, video games, or other supplementary material. Well, besides the dubiously canon comics. Check out this video by Watchtower Database if you don't believe me. Wally West is the main Flash throughout every storyline, from his race against Superman on S-Test to the time Lex takes off his helmet in the JLU body swap episode.
I have no idea who this is.
This is Wally West, and this is Barry Allen. It's not as simple as just a costume change, it is an entirely different character. The Flash being Barry in LEGO Batman 3 most likely means that the Flash in the prequel game, LEGO Batman 2, is also Barry. Unfortunately, we never get a clear answer on this. All of the credited VA work in LEGO Batman 2 has him credited as the Flash, not the Flash Barry Allen, though it's implied they are the same character. They share the same voice actor, they look the same, and they fill the same role. We have no reason to believe that this would be Wally, when Wally is always seen as Barry's protege and not the other way around. Though, the Flash does play a very small role in LEGO Batman 2, so there might be a way we can work around this. If LEGO Batman 3 was the Justice League Unlimited of the games, then LEGO Batman 2 is the bridge between Superman the Animated Series and the beginning of Justice League. It mainly follows Superman and Batman teaming up to take down the combined forces of the Joker and Lex Luthor. At the very end of the game, the already formed Justice League comes down to help. I can already hear some people questioning the identity of Green Lantern in the games. Yes, it is Hal Jordan, and yes, John Stewart is the main Lantern in the shows, but Hal has been shown to exist not just in the Fatal 5 movie, but also multiple episodes of JLU. He's just usually permanently stationed on Oa as an excuse for him not being present. There's even a point in the Batman Beyond future episode of JLU where John time shifts into Hal due to some time butterfly effect bullshit. They're seen as perfect replacements for each other inside the timeline. Anyways, we have to assume that the events of LEGO Batman 2 take place during the Justice League animated series, as the group is already formed and Batman has not officially joined.
Robin, we can't go through life expecting Superman or anyone else to save us whenever things get tough.
It remains that way for the majority of the shows as well. It's why I would probably place this game right after the events of Secret Origins, where Batman is not really a fan of asking for help, but will reluctantly work with the League.
I'm not really a people person, but when you need help, and you will, call me.
This game is the first time we ever see Lex and the Joker working together, but it's implied they've met before, already knowing what the other is about.
Nice running into you. Let's do it again sometime.
Oh, we will.
With Lex even sitting at the same table as the other Gotham rogues, he isn't treated like the other socialites. The same goes for their very first DCAU interaction, where it is once again implied this isn't their first time meeting.
Joker.
Lexi, old kid, do I have a deal for you?
It's also interesting that out of every single villain in Gotham, Lex goes to the Joker for help, specifically with the intent of getting more kryptonite.
Nifty! What's it got to do with me?
I need help replacing its power source. It doesn't run on AA batteries.
Kryptonite.
Sure, he says he needs the Joker gas for his run for presidency, something Ron DeSantis could have used, but villains in this universe are already used to teaming up to work on different aspects of a plan. It just seems weird that he wouldn't include somebody like Mr. Freeze, a brilliant scientist, or Catwoman, a silent burglar. Wouldn't those two or plenty of others with vendettas against the plastic bat be safer bets than Joker? Well, sure, they would be, but what if I told you that if these continuities are supposed to be somewhat intertwined, it wouldn't be the first time Lex and Joker have schemed together on this exact same matter. In Superman the Animated Series, Season 2, Episode 16, World's Finest Part 1, Joker gives Lex a trade deal.
Pay me $1 billion and I'll kill Superman.
Lex scoffs at the idea, prompting Joker to reveal a solid chunk of kryptonite in his possession. Lego Lex must be aware that Joker knows where he can find kryptonite, the only thing that can take down his arch-enemy. It wouldn't be a long shot to try again. Stealing it is never the issue, it's finding where to steal it from in the first place. This gives solid evidence to there being some connection between the two universes, but things start to fall apart very quickly the closer you look into it. Sure, we can sort of explain away the Green Lantern conundrum, but what about Cyborg? I mean, he never appears inside the DCAU, unless you count the gender-swapped version shown for only a few seconds in the show's pitch. He's pretty integral to not just LEGO Batman 2, but 3's story. We can't just ignore that. Now that I think of it, Hawkgirl isn't a part of this Justice League lineup either, and she's arguably the most important member, with the Thanagarian invasion storyline revolving directly around her. This change in roster makes the two universes being one impossible, and gives us only one final shot at something being connected. LEGO Batman 1. LEGO Batman 1, the game that started it all. What's always really impressed me about this game is just how easily it's able to pull from so many different pieces of Batman media, and sort of combine it into one amalgamation of a product. There's the obvious homages to Batman 89 within the game's soundtrack, there's references to Returns and Forever with the character team-ups, and of course there's the game's biggest inspiration, the DCAU. Anyone who's watched my channel for more than a month has heard me talk about this ad nauseum, so I'll try and keep it brief. But just a quick glance into the character roster, designs, physical locations, and of course, the lore, give reference back to the animated series. The only named characters to not appear inside of any DCAU canon media are Catwoman Classic, Tropical Joker, Killer Moth, and Hush. Ignoring the alternate costumes for Joker and Catwoman, which have A, no bearing on the game's story whatsoever, and B, are obvious references to other Batman media, Killer Moth ended up appearing in a DCAU comic later down the line, and Hush isn't relevant to the game's story at all. It's worth noting he's mentioned very briefly in a Batman Beyond comic, but this takes place on Earth 12, and isn't exactly canon to the DCAU Prime Earth or the show's continuity, and it's not important enough to explain, and it's stupid, and you should also subscribe. We can take it a step further and assess the character designs as well, particularly noting that the design for Robin might cause us a couple of issues. Out of the four main Robins, the one we follow in LB1 is Tim Drake, and no, it's not up for debate. The manual calls him Tim Drake, Nightwing appears as a separate character so it can't be Dick, and he literally calls himself Tim Drake by name in LEGO Batman 3. How many times do I have to keep doing this?
Batman, wait! It's me! Robin! You know, Tim Drake!
So the issue arises with the costume we see Tim's Robin wearing in the game. When Tim is introduced in the DCAU, he's given more of a Red Robin looking costume, with the green accents entirely taken away. This was something more associated with Dick during the adventures of Batman and Robin. We know from the game's data entries that this game has to take place after the events of the aforementioned World's Finest series of episodes, since one of the data entries in the game states that Superman entrusted Batman with a kryptonite ring. This is all fine and good, as by this point in the game's story, Tim Drake is the main Robin, so the green mask and tights will just have to call a creative choice. Many of the characters change design throughout the show, such as the Riddler and Scarecrow, and it by no means they're a different character. In fact, Tim's LEGO version being a sort of amalgamation of himself and Dick isn't that strange, as in the DCAU, Tim is honestly more Jason Todd than himself. He gets Jason's backstory and comic costume with the added benefit of his own normal smarts and computer skills. Point is, all of these Robins sort of intermingle character traits time and time again. Speaking of Jason Todd, he lacks a presence in both the DCAU and the games too, most likely a result of the more tragic character progression. While he would go on to appear as the Red Hood in the not-so-canon DCAU comic line and future LEGO Batman installments, he's never had any lasting impact or story relevance. I did a whole video on what happened to him in both pieces of media, so watch that if you're interested. The Red Hood is mentioned briefly in the game's data entries, a sort of lore bank used before characters could really express themselves in the games. This reference to the Red Hood refers to Joker's use of the persona before falling into that vat of acid though, and has nothing to do with Jason. This data still remains helpful though, as it gives us information about the LEGO world that we wouldn't otherwise know. For starters, there's reference to characters such as Huntress, Ventriloquist, and even Talia, who don't make appearances in the first game at all, ignoring the handheld port. These characters do, however, eventually debut in the DCAU in some capacity, and the same goes for more specific entries like how Batman enters the Batcave, with it lining up exactly with the DCAU's interpretation. The inclusion of these tidbits of information are what led me on this chase in the first place. Why bother including such specific references if the worlds aren't meant to have some kind of crossover, implied or otherwise? Sure, there's references to events like Nightfall which don't happen within the DCAU, but it wouldn't be the first time where extremely important things happen off-screen with no mention, cough cough, Barry Allen. The data was an intentional device to place lore within the world, so I'd treat them as the highest possible canon. But this wouldn't be a BD1P LEGO Batman timeline video if one small insignificant detail didn't take down all of the work we put into it.
Come on, where are you?
Matt?
Help me look. It's gotta be in here somewhere.
The face cream? You used up your last jar yesterday.
No! I gotta have more. Now, see?
Are you f***ing kidding me? After all of this, the thing that breaks our theory is Clayface. I can look past the data entries that reference outside events from the DCAU, because at the end of the day they contradict nothing. I can look past the costume changes and Robin amalgamations because at the end of the day they help our case more than anything. I can even look past the various technological differences from Batman Beyond versus all of the games and everything else because at the end of the day, who cares? But this is inexcusable. I reached out to friend of the channel Watchtower Database, the leading expert on all things DCAU, to see if it was at all possible that Clayface could change identities. James had said that with the amount of times Clayface fakes his own death or supposedly dies and returns, that it's entirely possible he could have really died and swapped the mantle over to Basil. Even looking at the character in the DCAU, it's clear it is just Basil Karlo with Matt Hagen's name, taking the acting background from Basil and ignoring the whole treasure hunter motif that Matt Hagen had developed over the years. Timeline-wise, this really doesn't work. Clayface's final appearance was in the Justice League episode Secret Society, which revolves around the promise to return Clayface to his old life as Matt Hagen. Because the events of LEGO Batman 1 take place before the formation of the Justice League, it would mean that there would be two acting Clayfaces, one stuck in a bunch of biohazard containers, and one running around with the Riddler. There really is no good way to explain this. Clayface stays as Basil Karlo up until current day in the LEGO universe, giving us no room to even theorize about an identity change. Unfortunately, this was the final chance we had to tie anything back to the DCAU. A part of me still considers this to be canon to the DCAU in the same way that the comics or the old video games are. There's just too much overlap, but unfortunately, officially, we fall just a little bit too short. If you made it this far into the video, you'll be happy to learn that we could potentially be getting Batman the Animated Series LEGO sets later on in 2024, which makes it possible for some future Batman game to tie us back into the universe we all loved and grew up with as kids. But we'll have to wait and see. Thank you for watching this far into the video. As always, a like and a comment always helps out my channel. But in the meantime, don't forget to use my Aura link down below in the description and pinned comment, and I will see you all in a couple weeks.